What's the most jaw-dropping courtroom moment you ever witnessed? Mine happened 3 years ago, and I still think about it every time I step into a courthouse. I've been a certified court translator for Spanish-speaking witnesses for over a decade. Most days are routine translating testimony, documents, and ensuring non-English speakers get fair representation in our justice system. But this particular case was different. A high-profile personal injury lawsuit where a young immigrant woman, Maria, was suing a wealthy property developer after falling through rotted floorboards at one of his rental properties. She'd suffered multiple fractures requiring surgery and couldn't work for months. The developer's attorney was notorious in legal circles, a Harvard-educated shark named Lawrence Pierce, who specialized in intimidating witnesses, particularly those from vulnerable communities. His strategy was clear from the moment Maria took the stand: paint her as an opportunist exaggerating injuries for a payday. As I translated his questions, I could feel his condescension even though I maintained my professional neutral tone. He kept using complex legal terminology that even native English speakers would struggle with, forcing me to translate increasingly complicated concepts to Maria. Ms. Rodriguez, can you explain the discrepancy between your initial ambulatory assessment and your subsequent orthopedic consultation regarding the alleged metatarsal displacement? He asked, smirking slightly. I translated faithfully, watching Maria's confusion and anxiety grow. The judge, noticing her distress, reminded Pierce to use language appropriate for a layperson. Pierce nodded insincerely and continued his barrage. Then came the moment that changed everything. Ms. Rodriguez, isn't it true that you've been involved in 3 previous personal injury claims? He asked dramatically, emphasizing 3 as if revealing a criminal history. Maria looked confused as I translated. No, never, she replied in Spanish, which I translated back. Pierce approached with a document. Then how do you explain these records showing 3 separate claims filed under your name and social security number? As I translated, Maria's eyes widened. That's impossible, she responded. I've never been injured before, and I only received my social security number 2 years ago when I became a resident. Your Honor, I'd like to enter evidence showing the plaintiff's history of fraudulent claims. That's when Maria's attorney, a young public interest lawyer who had been relatively quiet, stood up. Your Honor, may I see those documents? After reviewing them briefly, she asked, Mr. Pierce, what's the birth date listed on these previous claims? Pierce glanced down. The 15th of March, 1972, and Miss Rodriguez's birth date. The same, Pierce replied confidently. Your Honor, Maria's lawyer said calmly. My client was born in 1994. She would have been -4 years old when the first claim was filed. These records belong to another Maria Rodriguez, a common name in the Cakrant community. Mr. Pierce has failed to perform even basic due diligence in verifying identity. The courtroom fell silent. The judge peered over her glasses at Pierce, whose face had drained of color. Furthermore, Maria's lawyer continued, I'd like to point out that using someone's common ethnic name against them by assuming all people with that name are the same person isn't just bad lawyering, it's textbook discrimination. As I translated this exchange from Maria, I watched her transform from confused and intimidated to sitting up straight with dignity restored. The judge ordered a 15-minute recess. When we returned, Pierce had been replaced by his associate, and the developer's team offered a settlement that was 3 times their initial offer. I've translated thousands of proceedings, but I'll never forget the look on Pierce's face when he realized his Harvard education had been undone by his inability to distinguish between 2 women with the same common name but different birth years. Sometimes justice doesn't come from complex legal maneuvers, it comes from someone simply pointing out the obvious with perfect timing.